Okay, we're starting. Okay, hello, welcome to. This is episode 3. I'm correct. I'm hopefully correct. Episode 3 of Quarantine Time Machine. What basically this is a whole thing where everyone gets or certain people, if they have a story, they just share a story from history that's either interesting, weird, or whatever other words I can't think of at the moment. Today we're going to be having is me, myself, Rihanna Barbara, Miss Monroe, Allison Monroe, Mary Grace, Sophia, Sam, Bridget,
Hey.
Eva, Julissa, Haven, Colin, and Christina. There we go.
Yeah. Sam, did we get
And
you in
someone
there?
new, apparently.
Oh, and
And
I
Oh,
think
Miss
Miss.
Dyer. Miss Dyer.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, continue, Rihanna.
Okay, so today we're gonna have a few people share some stories. This is gonna be the third up. Oh, okay, that was weird. That's okay. Sorry, there's so many things going on at once. But today's episode, we have 12 people here. I already named them all off. If you do have any suggestions or stories you would like to be heard on this podcast or whatever you want to call it, send it to me or Miss Monroe or anyone on here that would eventually email it to us.
All right, sounds
That's a
good. So, last week we learned about, the true story of French toast. Mary had a little lamb. We learned that there was more than one Cleopatra.
We learned a lot.
Yeah.
The Oregon Trail, Colorado being red. The unsinkable woman. What else?
Like Unsinkable Sam, but as a human.
Yes, exactly. And I tried to find a story about another person who survived 3 ship sinkings, and I didn't get very far in my search.
Dang.
All right, so who would like to share their story first?
I have one.
All right, Eva.
Going first today.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, that wasn't Eva. Who was that?
That was me.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay. So I have 2 stories. One's very, very short. One's a little bit longer. I'll start with the longer one. So there's this Finnish soldier. His name's Imo, and he was a soldier in World War II. And so he was the first soldier that was documented on overdosing on an adrenaline pill. But so here's the thing. So he was assigned to go with some British troops on a skiing trip in 1944 in April, along with a couple of other people. And 3 days into this trip, Soviet forces had them surrounded. So they're all worried. And Imo technically isn't really a soldier. He's more of a medical personnel. And so Imo is like, I wonder what's going to happen. So the Soviets start shooting, and everyone else in this group gets shot and dies. And so I was like, well, I want to survive. I don't want to die. So he grabs a pair of skis, and he starts skiing away from these troops as fast as he can. And he realizes, wait, I have an adrenaline pill in my little medical kit, because that's what he was supposed to be doing. So he was like, okay, I could take 1 or 2 pills, make it so I don't pass out, and I can get away from these Soviet soldiers with no problem. And so it is very, very cold, because obviously, well, he's skiing, but it is freezing where he is. And so he is trying to open this capsule with all these pills, and instead of taking one pill, he takes 30 of them.
How do you accidentally take 30
you-
instead
yeah.
of 1?
Yeah, so he just,
Why would you
he just
take
swallows
30?
them all. Because he's dumb. Anyway, so he takes 30 adrenaline pills, and so he starts skiing. He ends up skiing about 250 miles straight. And, well, when they found him, his heartbeat was 200 beats per minute, which is double the average, human heartbeat. And he only weighed 93 pounds. And the only reason that he stopped was because he was injured by a landmine that he encountered. And so he somehow survived about 2 weeks on 30 adrenaline pills, getting away from Soviet soldiers. And yeah, so that was a fun time.
I'm
Oh my
sorry,
god.
What?
Who would think that he would die from that?
Yeah.
So he accidentally took 30 adrenaline pills instead of.
It's
Yeah, so-
impressive that he survived.
Exactly. And, well, so the pill that I took is called methamphetamine, and it's basically a pill that like a bunch of soldiers, especially on like the Allied side, would take so that they wouldn't like fall asleep during like while they're on lookout. So he took 30 of them and ended up staying awake for like 2 weeks, and yeah.
Jeez.
He might have gone clinically insane after that, but
I'm pretty sure he did.
yeah, that's crazy.
I could
Like,
only find like 2 articles on this guy, so I don't really know like any other part about, except for the fact that like he took 30 adrenaline pills and somehow skied 250 miles in like 2 weeks. So, and then the other one I have, this one's like really, really short. But basically, in 1895, there were only 2 cars on the road in the entire state of Ohio. There's not a lot of background on why, but it is kind of suggested that like that I think the government was like running an experiment, so they were kind of keeping everyone off the road. So, but there were 2 cars on these roads, and they were allegedly both police cars, and somehow they end up running into each other. In the entire state of Ohio, 2 cars run into each other. The only 2 cars there. So, you know.
How much of a bad driver do you have to be?
That's what I want to know.
There are quite a few bad drivers out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen kids who I know who do not have a driver's license because, like, they're still in middle school. I've seen driving on the road.
That's not good.
That's scary.
Oh,
Scary.
I'd be like, Mom, pull over the car and wait for this kid to pass.
That's how addicted to Target they are. Can't take the bus.
I mean,
That's true.
Hopefully, I mean, at least during these times, people are driving less. I can tell you I'm almost mad at the fact that I'm paying for car insurance, but I'm not driving my car anywhere.
Yep.
I have
Okay.
one that's related.
Yeah, we'll go to Haven next, and then we'll go back to Mary Grace for her next story.
I have one that's related to skiing. So yeah. It's kind of short, but this happened in Whistler, Colorado. And
there's a Whistler, Colorado? Really? Like, I'm thinking of British Columbia, like Canada. You know, they're on the Epic Pass, but like, I don't think there's a Whistler, Colorado. There might be, but or maybe it used to be. Maybe it's like Whispering Pines or something.
So a bunch of the staff at the ski area hosted a party at the end of the ski season, and they had a bunch of boxes of wine. And so they go to sleep, and they haven't finished all this wine. There's still a bunch left. And one of them wakes up in the morning, and he comes over to this hut where they had their party. And he notices all these boxes, like, strewn across the ground. He's like, oh my gosh, this is totally a prank. And then, like, about 100 feet down, he encounters this bear that, fresh out of hibernation, has drunk 10 boxes of wine on an empty stomach. And it's just going insane.
I feel bad for the bear.
Eventually, the bear stumbles down to the highway and falls asleep and is airlifted to a safer location.
They
didn't even have to tranquilize him.
He was already too drunk.
Poor bear. Oh my gosh.
Poor bear.
I know.
We can't hear you, Sophia.
Are you talking? Oh. But the foxes are crazy right now. I'm hearing them every night. Like, mating season is in full swing.
And the kits, we've got 2 dens right up the hill from us, and we're going and taking, I guess I have some amazing pictures of 3 sets of 3 fox kits that are just jumping around playing. So,
that sounds amazing.
Baby animals.
I know, right?
So cute.
That sounds great. Okay. Who wants to tell the next story? So I'll tell you guys one of the stories that I have while we get Sophia a new story. She didn't know because last week Jalissa told the Tootsie Roll story. So and Sophia had the same one. That is okay. Okay, so which one do you guys want to hear first? The Dancing Plague or Disney Watercolors?
I have the Dancing Plague story.
Oh my gosh, Jalissa!
I was planning to tell that one too. That's
Okay,
a popular story.
Well, then in that case, I'll let Jalissa tell that story, and I'll tell you the one of Disney Watercolors. It's super short, but then I'll find another one to tell you. So, anyways, in 2008, 4 watercolor paintings depicting Pinocchio and the 3 dwarves from Snow White and the 7 dwarves were discovered in Norway, and they were found to have been painted by none other than Adolf Hitler. Why, you may ask, would he choose that subject? Hitler actually had a special interest in Snow White. Anyone guess why? Anyone?
Oh, because like she like looked like the Aryan
the
race.
fairest
Like
in the land.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
literally in her name, Snow White, and obviously that was part of the Nazi propaganda and like idea that they had going on. Anyways, the story was based on an old German fairy tale, Snow White was, and he related it back to his old-fashioned Aryan stories. Hitler considered the Disney film to be one of the greatest films ever made, and it was one of the 50 American films purchased by the German propaganda ministry. Before you start thinking that Hitler was a Disney superfan, he totally hated Mickey Mouse and thought he was a degenerate tap dancing idiot. Hitler's opinions don't matter, so we're gonna move on from that one. Yeah, apparently he was fascinated with Disney, like specifically Snow White and Pinocchio, and he would use them as like propaganda stories. But isn't it interesting that Hitler was a watercolor painter? Seems very
Wait, why Pinocchio?
it doesn't say. But yeah, Pinocchio was one of them. And then I just found it strange that like Hitler had this, I guess, romantic talent for watercolor. Yes, Haven?
First thing, I would like to point out that Snow White has like ebony black hair and super dark eyes. So like if you were to take in historical context, she would probably be Jewish. But I mean, and then the other thing is relating to fascist dictators. Mussolini wrote a series of romance novels that you can still find on Amazon.
Oh man, these people.
And Hitler actually was a very accomplished artist before he went off the deep end and did what he did.
That's right. Didn't he go to art school?
Yeah, he was definitely all about the art. He produced hundreds and hundreds of quality works.
So I know Hitler's story is like,
Oh yeah.
he wanted to go to art school, and then I think he didn't get accepted, and then he ended up like selling postcards on the streets of his art. But then World War I came around, and he joined the army.
Yeah.
There's a pretty decent movie about that side of him, and that shows him going to the dark side that he did go to, and that transition and all. I forget what it's called, but I remember being a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Just mind-blowing to watch.
When you find out the name of that, let me know.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to learn more about like Hitler himself and like some of the SS leaders. There was a good documentary I watched not that long ago called like Children of Hitler or Hitler's Children. And it's actually the ancestors of like the grandkids of some of these people who were Nazi leaders. So like Heinrich Himmler, the guy who was in charge of like basically the extermination of the Jews, Hitler was more like actually on the war front and knew less of what was going on in the camps and stuff like that. Yeah, he ordered it, but he knew less of what was going on there. So anyway, Himmler was considered worse than Hitler because Himmler's really the one who came up with the plan for extermination. So anyways, his granddaughter is interviewed in it, and I believe she's the one who is now living in New Mexico. But she like couldn't stay in Germany, and like it's very interesting to hear from them. The grandson or the son, either the son or the grandson of the commandant for Auschwitz is in that documentary, and they actually go back to Auschwitz, like where his father grew up. That's what it is. He's the grandson. His father was a kid during and living at Auschwitz when all this happened, and he remembers talking about like seeing the chimneys from his backyard. Like he and his brothers or sisters would be playing outside, and the chimney was right in their backyard, and they knew what was going on there. So like, yeah, it's crazy, pretty traumatizing for a kid to grow up like that. But the documentary is cool just because it talks about like the next generations of their kids and how they grew up.
Speaking of Adolf Hitler, this is actually kind of a funny thing. I'm not exactly for sure how I came. Well, I think my sister actually came about this book. But the book is called How to Lose Friends and Alienate People. And it's written by this guy named Toby Young, and it's an older book. And I don't even know how my sister got the book, but we own it. And so what I think is the funniest thing is the dedication page. This is the exact dedication. This book is dedicated to the man who doesn't need to read it, Adolf Hitler. So I don't know, that, yeah, just all that just made me think about that.
Oh, man.
But the book is hilarious. It really does tell you how to lose friends. So, yeah.
Interesting. All right, whose story wants to go next?
Ooh, I actually.
Sophia, you already got a new one? Let's do it.
It's about potato chips. I'm just checking to make sure that nobody read about anything about potato chips.
Oh, no, that's good, because last week we talked about French fries and French toast and how chips are called crisps, or chips are called crisps, but chips are French fries, and so we're like, where did chips come from?
Oh yeah, this is actually the origin story of chips.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of read off of the thing, but it's like, once upon a time, a customer dined at Saratoga Springs Moon Lake House, and he ordered the house, and this customer ordered the house specialty Moon's fried potatoes, and they weren't actually like really crispy and stuff. They were just like regular potatoes, but yeah, they were like fries basically, and he gave him exactly what he ordered, but he didn't like him. The guy who kept ordering them kept complaining about it and saying that like these aren't good enough. They're too crispy and they're too.
Sophia, we lost you at they were too something.
So they were being really picky, and they were just being really picky, and the customer just kept wanting them like thicker and like not as fried and crispy. So they kept bringing it back, and it just kept going on and on and on for a while. Eventually, the chef got really mad, and he's like, you know what? He was planning his revenge. So he like cut these super thin potatoes and then fried them like really crispy, and then he served them to the guy, and the guy actually loved them.
Huh.
And he was like, wow, these are great. And that's how potato chips were made.
But wait, how did
I like that.
come up with the name chip? Like potato chip.
I don't know.
Maybe the sound of it, like onomatopoeia. You know? I don't know. A chip sounds like when you eat it. Chip.
and they're mildly circular, like a poker chip, a chip of.
Oh, and they're about the size of a poker chip if it's a small potato.
What if they actually use potato chips as a poker piece at one point?
You know, during the famine, absolutely, it's completely possible that people were like, all right, you win these potatoes.
Probably.
That's a story for another time, because the Irish potato famine is a story that takes a long time to tell. But if you're interested in learning about when all the potatoes died, what happened, Well, essentially, the
So-
British kept them all, and a bunch of Irish people died.
Yeah.
So, long story short.
Yeah.
All right, Jalissa,
Can
do you
I-
want to tell my story?
Yeah.
Before she does that,
Still upset about
can I
this.
just piggyback on the potato chip story?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I just read an article this morning. Belgians, one of the most popular dishes in Belgium is French fries and mussels. Moule frite, it's called moule frite.
In
Mussels.
Belgium?
Yeah, mussels and French fries. Belgians are being asked currently, as we speak, Belgians are being asked by their government to double their intake of French fries because they have such a major surplus of potatoes that they don't want to go bad.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that makes sense, especially if they don't have tourism and that's like one of their things.
Exactly.
Like, I'm sure the Netherlands is losing a lot of money in tulips this year,
Right. Yeah.
you know? Which is so sad. Every year, the Netherlands has this beautiful garden called Keukenhof that is only open from April to June. Like, and that's it. And that's because tulips are early bloomers and they bloom in the cold, like right at the end of the cold season. But the Netherlands, like literally their money is off of the tulip. That's where they originate, and that's where they make all their money. In this garden, like even when my mom and I went there had to have been at least like at any given time 70,000 people in this garden. It's beautiful, but at the same time, it's just like so sad because they have to plant it a year before everything that they plant. And it's the way that I describe it is the garden changes every year. Every year it's different. There's different bulbs blooming in different places. They move their plants to create these like artistic masterpieces. So to know that like a year of work went into building this garden and nobody gets to see it is so sad. It was really exciting, but I took my mom there a few years ago because that was like her dream. It was on her bucket list to go to the Netherlands and see the tulip fields and stuff like that. So there's your fun fact, sad fact for coronavirus information. Yes, Haven. We can't hear you, Haven.
Oh, no. I was just wondering who's gonna go next.
Oh, I thought. Wait, I thought Jalissa was going to tell my story.
Oh, okay.
Hey, so I'm reading this off of unbelievablefacts.com. So in 1518, Roman city of Strasbourg, hundreds of people came down with the dancing mania, where they danced for days on end and seemed unable to stop. Some of the dancers kept going until they died from exhaustion, strokes, and heart attacks. Experts say it may have been a form of mass hysteria. The event became known as the Dancing Plague of 1518.
Yeah, it wasn't just that one. So the one I have is actually different from that. Yeah, but it mentions the one in 1518 because that was one of the later ones. It actually started, it seems like, in 1374. They called it like also known as St. Vitus's dance. And the name for it was choreomania. Like they literally came up with a scientific name for it. This medieval phenomenon. Anyways, it involved spontaneous and continuous dancing by crowds. And like Jalissa said, until they like collapsed of exhaustion or possibly even died. It was reported as like to authorities as a genuine concern, and it also seemed to have been contagious. So it says here, for example, in June 1374, one of the widest outbreaks began in Aachen, Germany, I don't know, before spreading to other places such as Cologne, Flanders, Utrecht, and Italy. And then it goes on to say, there were still more outbreaks more than a century later. In Strasbourg in July of 1518, a woman named Frau Trophea began dancing in the street. Within 4 days, 33 others had joined her, and within a month, there were 400. many of whom suffered heart attacks and died. But because no autopsies were carried out, and because medical science of that day would not even be described as hardly advanced, only guesses can be made as to the causes. Some people think it could have been a skin infection or muscular inflammation that led to spasms. They're not really sure. And then at some point, some people believed that the dancing was a curse brought about by Saint Vitus, who was, according to Christian legend, a Christian saint from Sicily. So they responded by praying and making pilgrimages to places dedicated to Vitus. The recovery of some victims further bolstered the perceived connection between the illness and the saint. Yeah, that information I got from historyextra.com.
And this was way before the days of the Grateful Dead, so
right? Because now we would see that. I mean, people travel the country to do this for 3 days.
They could have just been listening to Fae music.
That's so true. Were they drinking Fae wine? They say, don't drink wine from a fairy. I think the Scottish still believe that. All right, so great job, Jalissa. We had a good transition there. Who wants to go next? All right, Eva.
Okay, so mine is about the Denver airport and like all the conspiracies surrounding it.
Yeah.
So one of the actual true conspiracies is, the giant Bronco, like right before you get to the airport, the one with the glowing red eyes.
Yeah.
It actually killed the creator who made the statue. It says that the leg, or no, it just fell on him and it hurt his leg so badly it made an artery. And yeah, he died because of that. And then there's also, people look at the murals inside of the airport and they think that it's something about how the government's trying to take over and create a new world, and how it's all this just big conspiracy theory, and how everybody in Denver is kind of in on it. And then there's another thing that because of all the renovations, apparently some guy said that there's like 5 levels of something being built, but he doesn't know what it is. They don't know the purpose for it yet.
That'd be a great way to like scare tourists like out of like Colorado and like Denver and Summit County Jail. Just be like, oh, by the way, the Bronco horse is like haunted, so if you see its front eyes, you're gonna die whenever you go to Summit County. Anyway,
what am I trying to
your
think
trip.
of? They were like, I'm thinking of like Angels and Demons, the Da Vinci Code, not the Freemasons, but they just like the Freemasons came from this idea. Who is like they
the
were
Illuminati?
like, yeah, the Illuminati.
Yes.
There's that theory that the Illuminati meet at Denver Airport and that there is an underground bunker under the airport. That's why, like, if you've been to DIA in the last year, they've been under construction. There are posters all over that are like, what's real about it? And then it's like alien pictures, because there are so many conspiracy theories that are linked to Denver Airport. And that was like, one of them literally has the Illuminati symbol on it. And they're like, what's really going on here?
I've seen one about like lizard people too.
Yeah, it's so great. I think Colorado has some great humor.
Yeah, I think everyone's just kind of like, okay, why not? Let's just do this anyway. It's fun.
Tourism.
Haven, you can speak.
I know, but it always gets cut off. Well, talking about government conspiracy, Japan during World War II actually paid off its entire army with drug money, because during this time Japan has been plotting and succeeding in starting to take over China, and they started a drug trade in the middle of China. And they started to sell drugs, like disguise them in cigarettes and sell drugs to all of the civilians. And one of the general's bigger plans was to basically alienate the entire society of China and make them into like this docile, civilization that would follow him anywhere he wanted to. So they basically laced all these cigarettes with drugs and sold them to all these Chinese people, and then made a bunch of money for the military.
Oh my
Wow.
god.
Okay, so I just remember. Oh jeez.
Wow, that's crazy.
Please calm down.
And then
yes, continue, Haven.
and then somebody went inside the whole operation and took down the whole drug trade. But who knows, if they hadn't, maybe China would now be Japan.
That would be crazy. I mean, would they? I don't even know.
There would be even more animes.
Yeah. There might be more money. They may be more advanced. I mean, China's pretty advanced, but there's a lot of poor people in China. It's like, for being communist, it's not very equal.
They had all these poppy fields that they used to make opium. And they would hire all of these Chinese workers to come and mine these poppy fields, and they wouldn't tell them anything about it. They'd just be like, "Come on,
Do it.
plant the poppies, cut the poppies."
The poppies, man.
I just remembered something actually.
Go for it.
I just remembered something pretty interesting actually.
Say it.
Okay, so back when my dad used to work with a hotel called La Posada, there's this room that was supposedly haunted by a girl. And basically this room had stairs leading up to it, so anytime you would walk up there you could probably hear something there. So basically he did, I forget the whole thing, it's kind of fuzzy because this was a while ago. This was all the way back in New Mexico when I used to live there. Is that there's a lot of it's at this point it's not even a room at this, because a lot of workers know that there is something that died up there and it's still there, but they're assuming it's a little girl because there was a report saying that they saw a girl walking around the hallways with something along the lines of that.
Creepy.
Oh, I just
It
remembered.
just makes me think of the Stanley Hotel, though, and you know how Stephen King wrote The Shining, and it was all based off of his experience staying at the Stanley Hotel, and he wrote it while he was staying there. So I think it's more of just now, because of that book, people think it's haunted. It's ridiculous. They make so much money off of doing haunted tours and selling certain rooms there. Sounds like a scam to me.
The weekend of our dismissal,
To think.
I was supposed to go see my favorite band on Friday the 13th, March 13th, the day we all got dismissed.
Yeah.
Supposed to stay in the Stanley on Friday the 13th
What?
and see live music for the weekend. But
that would have been so cool. All right. Well, who's next? Who do we need to hear from? Christina, go for it.
All right. So have we done a story of Julius Caesar or whatever?
You may have to turn off your computer or your video for us to hear you clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. So have we done a story of Julius Caesar? No.
No.
What were you asking us a question? I couldn't hear you. We could hear you up to this is a story about Julius Caesar.
So have we done a story of it or no?
Have I what?
Have we done a story about it?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. So this is a quick story, the 7,000th quick story of this podcast. Can you hear me? 'Cause I feel okay. So in the midst of an impassioned debate on the Senate floor, a page delivers a private message to young Julius Caesar. His opponent, Cato, demands the letter to be read out loud. Caesar initially refused, but after much pestering, showed the rival senator the note. It was a love letter from Cato's half-sister, and it was purposely done by Caesar to embarrass Kato and his family. So
I can't.
So Christina said,
In the midst of I can't read today. I have sight.
I'll read it.
Thank you.
In the midst of an impassioned debate on the Senate floor, a page delivers a private message to young Julius Caesar. His opponent, Cato, demands the letter to be read aloud. Caesar initially refused, but after much pestering, showed the rival senator the note. It was a love letter from Cato's half sister. This was purposefully done by Caesar to embarrass Cato. Oh, so like having to read the love note out loud.
It's the gladiator all over again.
Yeah, right? Except for I don't think it involves that guy. What was his name?
Cato.
Julius Caesar.
Well, obviously, I'm talking the guy who plays Julius.
Oh.
or no, who plays the gladiator. He's also in Les Mis. Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
Les Mis.
A funny story about Russell Crowe. So there's this Irish singing group, and they're called Gaelic Storm. And basically, the lead singer, his name's Pat. He decided to he decided to make a song about the night that he punched Russell Crowe. And so I memorized the song. I'm not going to sing for you because that's a bad idea. But basically what happened was this guy, Pat, was working in a bar in California, and Russell Crowe comes in, and it's illegal in California to smoke near the bar because alcohol, explosive, bad idea. And so Pat is like, hey, you need to get out, like, or I'll like throw you out of the bar. And Russell's like, no, I don't like want to get out. So they have a whole brawl. And so basically Pat claims that his bodyguard, like Russell's bodyguard, like came up to try to like beat him up. And so instead he just socked Russell Crowe in the nose, and he was like, he broke his nose, and it was a whole deal. But yeah, so the song's called "The Night I Punched Russell Crowe."
Oh my
So
god!
I would highly recommend listening to it. It's actually a hilarious song. Highly recommend.
I didn't realize that Russell Crowe was like not the nicest guy. Like I thought he was like super cool, and here I was thinking, man, this story's really like he punched Russell Crowe. But it's like if he's like that rich and famous that he's like, I don't fight my own fights. Like I'm gonna go get my bodyguard. I just don't like famous people who always pull the like, don't you know who I am card.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to follow the law. I am the law.
So
I
just
am
found this
law.
up on my phone when I was looking at boy gets for talking.
Oh, and also, sorry, a little backup on this story. Apparently afterwards, like after he punched Russell Crowe, his like bodyguard like actually tried to beat him up. So in this song, the lyrics are, the closest that I've come to ending up dead was the night that I punched Russell Crowe, the gladiator, in the head. So yeah.
I have it pulled up. I can play it for a little bit. It's right here.
It's the funniest song. It's hilarious.
There's
Should I
no
play it?
explicit content, right?
I don't
Nope.
think so.
Okay.
Okay, good. I'm gonna play it for a little bit.
We can't hear it.
Here,
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me just try taking off my headphones and putting my mic closer to the speaker, so I won't hear anything you're saying.
I have a
So-
better idea. I can record it and then I'll insert it later
yes,
Perfect.
in editing.
literally all of their songs are hilarious. It's Gaelic Storm. The album is called What's the Rumpus. They're literally hilarious stories. Another one out of a different album is about Shanghai Kelly, which basically, this is a hilarious story. Okay, so Shanghai Kelly was kind of a scallywag, and he was in San Francisco. I think it was in like the 1940s or so. And people, like groups of ships, would come into the bay, and basically it's kind of a long story, but So basically this guy, he's like, okay, well, we don't want you like coming into our bay because it was technically like he thought it was his port. Anyway, so he would invite all these sailors to go to the nearest like pub because that's a really big thing back then. But what they didn't know is that the owner of the pub, some older lady, was in on this trick, and basically they would slip like opium and other drugs into their drinks, so then that would knock them out. So that's why it's called like Shanghai, because he was like Shanghaiing them. It was the year of 1849, pardon me. And so they put chloral hydrate, shot of opium, and madeline in their liquor, and so then they would pass out, and then they would wake up like back on their ships, and so then they wouldn't come into the port anymore. So
Okay, but I would like to say, for the record, the base of Japanese drug trade operations was in Shanghai.
See?
My favorite part of all of this is that Mary Grace used the word scallywag to describe someone.
Okay, words are difficult, so.
No, that was like amazing because that word is so rarely used. So it makes me happy that you used it. That was good.
Yes, but
Colin.
the weird thing about this guy is he actually at one of his concerts he jumped off of a balcony during one of his concerts and broke both of his legs. So
well, that was dumb.
He's chilling at home with 2 broken legs in quarantine. Yeah, it's a good time.
Crazy guy.
I have an interesting story.
All right.
It's pretty short. So where is this? So in Texas, at Tuss Bridge in Denton County, there's this thing called the Goatman Bridge. And I first saw this on BuzzFeed Unsolved.
It's always a bridge.
It is always a bridge. So it's this legend about this guy who is like a goat man, and like the legends are like really weird. And so there's like the bridge, and then behind it there's a forest, and it says that there's supposed to be like satanic rituals where they sacrifice cats and stuff, and that's why they had to close like pounds and get rid of cats in their pounds, because they thought that people were just going to the forest and sacrificing their cats.
What? Oh my gosh.
It's the Billy Goats on the bridge all over again.
Oh my gosh, my dogs are driving me nuts. In and out and in and out. Do your dogs do this? So annoying.
Yes.
Except mine jumped my fence, so.
Oh no. Wait, your French bulldog jumped your fence?
Yes, my like 4-foot fence. She can like push off the inside and jump the fence.
Oh, that is a talented dog.
And she does it as a complete standstill too. She's just up.
My favorite dog can psych me out and make me fall and trip, so Dobby's pretty talented.
Well, Sam, Colin, do you have a story?
I do.
Yes.
Yay!
Wow.
You're probably gonna have to. You're probably gonna have to turn off your video.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. It says U.S. President Zachary Taylor overdosed on cherries.
Wait,
what?
I come back to this. What the?
After serving a mere 16 months in office, U.S. President Zachary Taylor passed away after eating far too many cherries and drinking milk at a 4th of July party in 1850. He died on July 9th from, I don't know how to say this, gastroenteritis. That word. Gastroenteritis.
Haven would know that.
The acidic cherries, along with the milk, is believed to have caused this.
I'm sorry. Can you say milk same for me? I'm sorry, but can you say milk just one more time?
Can I say milk?
Okay, you said it weird to me. Sorry.
Is it because he says it more as milk, like e instead of I?
Milk or milk? Milk?
Colin, where are you from originally?
Colorado.
Colorado.
Must be a Colorado thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it just
Malk.
But back to the fact that I didn't know that you could overdose on cherry.
You could
Kind of
overdose on anything if
concerned.
you try hard enough.
Well,
Wow.
I mean, but they also cherries also contain a serious amount of melatonin. So if you ever need to fall asleep easily, just eat a bunch of cherries.
Wow, Haven, you should just like have your own podcast that's like, let me help you in this world. Like, I
Eat some
know,
cherries. Be
I
happy.
know how to help you. Holistic medicine. It's true though, like she can recommend the tea that you need, the essential oil that you need. When we were in Costa Rica, me and Haven were both like, wait, we have the same oils. Like, well, you never know when you're gonna get stung by a mosquito or get a cut and need tea tree oil. Or have to pop a 3rd-degree blister from the Costa Rican sun. And then, tea tree oil.
Okay.
Interesting things. Sam?
No.
Nope, she's in her hobbit hole.
I have a story to make up for Sam's.
Perfect.
Sam, this is your story. No. Well, I don't know. It's kind of well known, but it's not really. It should be more well known. But during World War II, there was a girls' All-American Professional Baseball League. It was a baseball league basically made up of a bunch of women, and it went from 1943 to 1954. And there's a movie about it, and it's a really good movie, and you should
A League
watch
of Their Own?
Yes. It's got Tom Hanks in it. So,
Yes.
yeah. But basically, there were like 10 different teams, and they created their own baseball league, and they kept it going for like 10 years. And it was basically to replace all the men that were in the war. Because they were like, we need baseball, but we don't have any men. All the baseball players went to war, so they needed baseball players.
Yeah, and so then they
Why
made
not?
women's softball teams out of it. That's where
Yeah.
that famous line from Tom Hanks comes from.
But
There's
the
no
funny thing is-
pride in baseball.
They're literally, it wasn't even like a softball league, it was just a full-on baseball league, which it's been like the only women's baseball league in history.
Yeah. So cool.
Okay.
That was
I
like
have.
when women were really cool. Now it's just like the U.S. women's soccer team is the only female sport we pay attention to.
Yeah.
Olympic hockey, the women's hockey team.
That's true. When it comes to like the Olympics and stuff, absolutely. Hashtag equal play, equal pay.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Sam?
I don't have a story.
Okay, I have one really, really quick one.
Hang on. Sam finally spoke.
I don't have a story, but I have an announcement.
Ooh, yay, tell us.
Hamilton's coming to Disney Plus July 3rd.
I know Hamilton's going to Disney Plus on July 3rd.
Correct, with the original
Yes.
Hamilton cast.
I don't have Disney Plus.
I'm
Start a free
sorry.
trial.
Yeah,
And then
get
you
your
can
free
cancel
trial.
it.
Oh
You know?
Yeah, and then you can watch it.
But once you go down the like black hole that is Star Wars, you're never gonna end up getting the Disney Plus.
You never end. There's so many.
I know. And then you realize, like, oh, baby Yoda, and then you just keep going.
That's the
That's
only
so
reason we got
cute.
Disney Plus, and we still have it.
Yeah.
That's
Good
not
times.
good. Okay,
Um,
I have one really, really quick one.
Go ahead.
So there's this anonymous artist. His name's Banksy. You probably all heard of him. He's
Yep.
very, very famous. And I'm sure you've heard this story probably once or twice, but I still love it. So he made this art. It's called Girl with Balloon. And it's basically a black and white girl and then like a red heart balloon. And he's very protective of his art, but especially that piece because it was his favorite. So he built a secret shredder inside of it in case it ever got sold at an auction. So this painting got sold for $1.4 million at an auction, and about 30 seconds after it got sold, it started shredding itself. And literally everyone went insane. So Banksy just, casually destroyed one of his favorite pieces of art. Yeah, and everyone was like freaking out, and like the security was like, did someone do this on purpose? And then Banksy, like 2 days later, when on his Instagram, it was like, no, it was me. Haha, fools.
That is such a Banksy thing to do too.
Like, huh.
I can't have
Oh yeah, and there's a video on YouTube in case you want to watch it shred itself.
It's
I'm looking that up right now.
yeah, just
I was
search up.
like, I need to look at this. Yep,
It's so
there.
funny.
Just what do I look up? Just the painting?
You
Just
I just put
look
Banksy
up
art destroyed.
Self-shredding painting.
and then you could just watch it go pew and bye. And he has an Instagram post where he shows exactly how he built the shredder and stuff. So yeah.
I've got a quick.
It turns out it actually only got partially destroyed, and then the shredder malfunctioned.
Yeah, only like the top half. Well, not like it was like a little bit more than.
He can turn around and
destroyed.
sell that for even more now.
You can be like, "Huh, you want to buy this still?" Okay,
yeah,
2.8.
it's half destroyed. It gives it that macrame look,
Yeah, it's just that.
Back out the dogs go.
So hello.
Almost dropped that.
Don't do that.
That was a good catch.
Has anyone shared the story about the bizarre tsunami in Boston years ago?
No.
No.
All right, here we go.
Please.
1919, Boston, Massachusetts. A 90-foot wide cast iron tank containing 2.5 million gallons of crude molasses for making rum, it exploded, perhaps because its contents had expanded during a rapid overnight rise in temperature. The tank was set 50 feet above street level, and all 2.5 million gallons poured out of it within a few seconds with no warning. The resulting thick, sticky wall of molasses was at times 15 feet high and ran through the streets of Boston at up to 35 miles per hour.
Oh my God.
It demolished buildings, tearing entire buildings from their foundation, carried off vehicles, it drowned horses. People who tried to outrun the wave were engulfed and drowned. In all, 21 people were killed and 150 injured.
Wow. So, was everything super sticky?
Yeah, it says people arriving at the hospital, eyewitnesses said they looked like toffee apples. Literally.
Oh my gosh.
Cleanup took weeks, and for decades afterwards, the locals claimed they could distinctly smell molasses on any hot day.
That's crazy.
Oh boy.
So it was just like a tank. It didn't come from the ocean, right? Like it came.
Right. So it wasn't really a tsunami, but it was a tank that just
avalanche.
Wow.
That is crazy. Wow. It makes me envision the scene in, was it Insurgent, I think, where they have to like go through the cleaning thing Triss does, and it like covers them in this like honey like substance. That's probably what it would have looked like. Gross. That's crazy. That's scary. And like, how do you walk in that after? It's like you're just walking in glue, basically.
So it's so thick too. It's like
like
what a suffocating feeling.
Thick as molasses, as they say. Slower than molasses.
Yeah, that's a good point. Which in this case wasn't very slow. It was quite fast and rapid. All right. Do we have any more stories? Yeah, Bridget!
Oh.
I haven't told a story this entire time.
I know.
Anyways, I have 2 stories. One of them I forgot to say on the second episode, but I missed it.
You got
But
it ready though.
It's called shark bait.
Ooh ha ha.
I knew someone was gonna do that. Anyways, during a research experiment, a marine biologist put a few bait fish inside the tank, and naturally the shark attacked the fish. So the marine biologist put a fiberglass divider in between.
We can't hear you. You got cut off at the fiberglass divider. Still can't hear you. I don't know what happened to your audio. Maybe like turn your audio off and back on. Oh yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah,
There you go.
Glitching out like that where like I can't hear you guys either.
Oh, okay. So we got you at fiberglass divider.
All right, so he put a fiberglass divider between a shark and a single fish, and what the shark did is he kept on slamming against the fiberglass wall in order to attack the fish.
Okay.
And so he repeated the same experiment multiple times, and each time the shark got less aggressive each time, and he kept on slamming against the glass wall. And eventually, the shark just stopped attacking the fish. He realized that he isn't going to get towards the fish, and he's just going to hit the wall. So he just stopped.
Oh.
And so he took out the wall, and then the shark just swam around in the tank and never attacked the fish because he learned that there was a wall between the two, so he couldn't attack it. So even without the wall, he just didn't attack the fish at all.
Huh.
It's like all the experiments we do on animals.
I wish my dog would do that.
Yeah.
Your friends not food.
Yes, fish are friends, not food. Except for when I'm eating sushi.
Yeah, sushi's an exception.
I just found this. Speaking of animals, during the Opium War, the Chinese would set monkeys on fire and then launch them at British ships and attempt to cause chaos. Feel really bad for those monkeys.
Flaming monkeys?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awful.
Just imagine.
And there was
the real life
there's
sea
another
monkeys.
one. Poor animals. We're just talking about poor animals here, but after
I know,
World
you
War
make
I-
me sad. Like I'm still
I know.
crying about Jurassic World 2, Forgotten
Th-
Kingdom, when the
this will make you
Brontosaurus
happier.
gets engulfed in flames.
This one will make you happier.
Okay.
So after World War I, so the Australian military started the Great Emu War, where they
I've
tried
heard
to
of this.
pull a bunch of emus with machine guns. 6 days after they first started shooting at these emus, 2,500 rounds of ammunition had been fired, and not a single emu was killed. It was declared an emu victory in the end.
Yes. And they ended up wasting a lot of money on these emus.
Exactly.
Why would
Like-
you waste money on emus?
Exactly.
I think
no.
it was something like I could be making this up, but one of my students was doing a project on it for National History Day last year or the year before, and he was doing it as a joke, and then it was serious. But I feel like I remember like the emu population was like getting out of control or something.
Yeah,
so
they were trying to kill a bunch of emus.
There you go. That's why, is because like there were too many of them and they were considered like invasive to the area.
So then they were all like, let's kill them.
Yeah, and then
the
they
emus were like, nope.
and they let the emus keep their land.
Don't kill emus. End of story. Don't kill emus.
So good. Awesome.
Exactly.
So thank you for watching or listening or whatever you're doing for this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode. There's a lot of interesting stories that I sadly couldn't hear some of them because I kept on getting up and walking around. As I was saying, is that we hope you do enjoy it. But if you do have any suggestions or anything like that, please email me, Miss Monroe, anyone on here. And then we'll somehow, or if we don't get a lot of emails, we can get to your story and we can probably share it next week. Hope you guys are well. Don't do anything illegal. Okay, have a safe week, rest of the week.
Wear your seatbelt.
Please sleep.
Sleep.
Make sure you sleep. Don't stay up too late. Okay.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.